And now, a very special Words of Wisdom with Adam Carriker.
Every 60 seconds in Africa, a minute passes.
I couldn't even get through that one with a straight face, man. I love that one. When you sent that out on Twitter this week, I died.
That is a funny joke, and I try to not be boring. You know, I send out the regular sometimes. You know, how you doing? Have a great night tweets, but I try to be interesting. But please, if I send out a joke and you don't find it funny, don't send me some serious tweet back. You know, like I got some replies like, "No crap, Adam. Oh, thanks for enlightening us." Like, seriously, it was a joke. It was blatantly a joke. Please appreciate the humor. And if you don't, just go on about your day and leave me alone, please.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I actually told that one to my cousin in the car. He doubled over and laughed.
Well, that's because it's funny. That is legitimately funny.
It was a good bit. It made me laugh. It
you.
made me laugh.
I appreciate
and so,
it.
you know what? Those people that get upset with that, they probably like to make donations to different charities. And so I would encourage you, instead of venting your anger by tweeting Adam, please drop a check in the mail to the Chuck Carroll Foundation for his own particular, I don't know, whatever the hell I want to buy fund.
Nice.
And
that'll get a lot of donations with that name.
If you tweet whatever the hell I want to buy fund. Anyway, this is Fourth and Pain. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Fourth and Pain. Like us on Facebook. And of course, set your alarms every weekday at noon. fourthandpain.com. Brand new, wacky material. And I guess that I should say that this is the only pro wrestling show to be hosted by
the best.
That too.
Greatest of all time.
An NFL player. He's Redskins defensive end Adam Carriker.
Howdy.
I'm former pro wrestling announcer turned weight loss champion Chuck Carroll. We are the best, the only pro wrestling show for you to have lunch with every weekday, noon. We're hitting that hard, and we're also hitting Twitter hard because we want to hear from you. Let us know. And so on that note, Adam, welcome to the show. We're about 2 minutes in, and it's time to actually discuss a little what? Wrestling.
Let's do it.
Let's talk a little bit about wrestling. And you came to me this week and you said, Chuck, I want to revisit the Survivor Series fantasy draft that we did because it's coming up this Sunday on pay-per-view. Contact your local cable provider. And you want to make some changes to your team, some amendments. So you said, hey, I'm going to be Daniel Snyder. You be Jerry Jones because obviously you can't be Jerry Jones. So we're gonna have maybe a little trade here, a little draft, a little add, a little drop. Hey man, it's fantasy WWE. And remember, these are WWE superstars, not necessarily on Team Punk or Team Foley. These are just our own guys, a head-to-head, one-time only Survivor Series team. Who would have the better team? Now let's recap before we make some adjustments here. Okay, on your team, Adam, you had The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, Ryback, Triple H, and Daniel Bryan. Strong five.
Absolutely.
I countered that with John Cena, CM Punk, Kane, The Miz, and Big Show. I thought as well a strong five. You put those two teams head to head, I think I get the slight advantage based on age, but you want to make some adjustments.
You have no advantage. You have a guy who hasn't won a match in a month. You have another guy. You predicted one of your own members would lose his own title. You're predicting losses for your own team here. Then you've got Kane who hasn't held the title in like Bubka's years, completely underrated, but he is underrated. I mean, you've only got two valid guys on your team.
The title, but he's currently a tag team champion.
No, Daniel Bryan is the tag team champion.
No, Kane is the
Daniel
tag
Bryan
team champion.
is the tag team champion.
He is the tag team champion.
Daniel Bryan. Yes. No. Whatever he says.
The tag team champions. We're talking about Kane. But seriously, in all seriousness, okay, you want to make some adjustments to your lineup. Let's talk about it. Of your five guys, what is it that you want to do?
Well, see, we had our off-season workouts. We did some of that. We took a little month off, and then we had training camp. And one guy, he just wasn't cutting it. And I noticed that this one individual was out there. I didn't think of him because he's off making movies and such. So I want to release Daniel Bryan, and I want to pick up the great one. I want to pick up The Rock. So now I've got a guy who's 28-0 at WrestleMania. I've got a WWE, a two-time national champion, WWE champion, UFC champion. I've got Ryback, the most indestructible force in the WWE today. I've got Triple H. I mean, he's like what? He's only a couple title reigns behind Ric Flair for the greatest of all time. Right. He won't get it because he's probably going to retire. But he's got like 14 world championships, second most in history. And now I've got The Rock, the most electrifying man. The man, you only have two valuable members of your team. and he beat one of them. And
Yeah.
he beat him like a 4-year-old at Kmart.
Well, you drop Daniel Bryan, and now your roster has 2/3 of the current headliners for WrestleMania. If you've seen the poster, it's headlined
I haven't
by
seen it.
it's headlined by John Cena, Brock Lesnar, and The Rock.
That's what I'm telling you. My team is dominant. And you want to say AARP. The fact is, you're older than 2/3 of them, and they are absolutely dominant. And you're making fun of guys in your own team, saying they're going to lose matches. A guy who hasn't won a match in about a decade now, in The Miz, can't even beat Kofi Kingston, who can't talk.
I will say this. I'm not altogether sold on having The Miz on my team. He's
I've talked you out of it.
Well, here's the thing.
I
I'm looking at him.
I am the Stephen A. Smith to your Skip Bayless.
Well, here's the thing,
Oh,
Steven.
yeah, I said it.
Here's the thing, Steven. The Miz, since we've done this draft, he's done nothing but continue to regress.
That's what I'm saying.
And
He's
done
terrible.
nothing but continue
Horrible.
to backpedal.
I just cut a guy who's better than him.
He can't win a match to save his life. So, you know what?
You're going to pick up the guy that I cut.
No, I'm just going to, I could plug in anybody right now and they'd be better than The Miz.
Wow.
I mean, I could put Heath Slater in there and he's going to be looking pretty good.
The one-man bam, baby.
3 MB, baby. 3 MB. But here's the thing. You know what? I'm actually stupefied. I've got 4 guys on my team right now. I can't figure out who I really want to plug in there. What guy could I put in there that's actually going? You must be crazy. Did you not listen to yesterday's show?
Yes, I did. I like that.
So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to plug in the Viper, Randy Orton.
I actually like that. Your team just got whole lot better in my eyes. They really did.
So, okay, well, here's the thing. Let's recap then. You dropped a guy. You added a guy. I did the same. Here's where it stands. You again, The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, Ryback, Triple H, and now The Rock. You dropped Daniel Bryan. My team now, John Cena, CM Punk, Kane, The Big Show, and drop The Miz, added Randy Orton. We're going to put the 2 teams, the 2 rosters, back up on fourthandpain.com. We certainly would appreciate it if you would cast your vote. Who's got the better team? Vote for us now. Vote for Team Chuck at Fourth and Pain right now.
I want to appeal to the fans. I want their input. Because I'm actually debating, because I have a rock solid The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, Triple H, The Rock. Ain't nobody going from there. Ryback. Now, he's the next big thing. He's an indestructible force. But nobody's picked up Sheamus. The guy held the belt since WrestleMania for like months and months. And he lost to a whale. So, should I have Ryback or should I keep Sheamus? What should I do? What do the fans have to say? I will go with whatever the fans have to say, Ryback or Sheamus. And that will complete my 5 and I will be done. Unless you want to make any trades. Do you want to make any trades? I don't want to because your roster is just straight up terrible compared to mine. Any move I make would just be inferior.
I disagree,
Unless you want to go Ryback for Cena or Punk. I'll do that. Other than that, I don't want to touch your guys.
No, man. You know
Well, I wouldn't do it either.
I'm still satisfied with my roster. Why? Because I've still got the 2 current champions. I've got a guy, Randy Orton, that's being pushed in that direction. I've got 1/2 of the tag team champions. And then you have Mr. WWE. I'm telling you, John Cena, my team is stacked, baby cakes.
So, The Rock beat Cena. So I have a guy that's already better. Let's see. We got Kane, who hasn't done anything other than ride the guy I just cut.
Tag team champions.
Other than the guy I just cut, he rides his coattails everywhere. In fact, you should pick up Daniel Bryan because he's better than Kane. You've got the Big Show, who you've already predicted to lose his title, which defeats your whole entire argument. The best thing you've done is pick up Randy Orton, who I've met, who was extremely a little undersized. I got to be honest with you. I was a little disappointed, Randy. Pick up more than 25-pound dumbbells. But I'm just saying, the best thing you've done is get Randy Orton, and he hasn't had a belt. He's done nothing more than get suspended twice in the past 2 years.
Wow.
That's the best thing you've done.
He's also been off making a movie. But here's
well, so what? So is The Rock.
Let me revisit the Big Show.
It's
and
not
here's
even
my
close.
logic. Here's my logic for having him on the team.
Okay.
This is your classic Survivor Series match. You have to figure the Big Show, being as big as he is, he's going to take out at least one guy on your roster. Logic dictates a giant like that in a match like this gets at least one pinfall.
It's not an over-the-top battle royal.
He's going to eliminate one of these guys.
It's not an over-the-top battle royal. It's not some huge advantage to have some fat guy in your team, some fat 42-year-old. You want to talk about AARP cards, by the way, which you did in the last time we discussed this. That guy's 42. That guy's almost 40. That guy's 36. I mean, I got to assume he's in his early 30s. At least I've got one young buck.
Well, you're talking about Cena, Kane, and the Big Show there, right?
Yes.
as far as my AARP.
And this guy
All-Stars.
has a Pepsi tattoo on his shoulder. What's up with that?
He's the next generation, baby.
Okay.
But here, the Undertaker. Okay, matter of fact, I have an uncle. Okay, he's a state trooper in Texas. That's where the Undertaker lives.
Mm-hmm.
Pulled over the Undertaker. You know how old the Undertaker is?
I got to be like 20-0 at WrestleMania.
83 years old.
20-0 at
Undertaker
WrestleMania.
is 83 years old.
20-0 at WrestleMania.
Brock Lesnar missing 2 feet of intestines. You got to discount him. Takes away from his in-ring ability. Ryback, still not sold on that guy. Triple H, couple of major surgeries. Matter of fact, I have another uncle. Works as a state trooper in Connecticut. Pulled over Triple H. You know how old Triple H is? 74 years old. 74 years old.
I got to be honest with you. I can always tell when I've won because you resort to just ridiculous things that aren't even remotely true. This is like saying you actually could get a girlfriend. It's just how ridiculous these things are.
I speak the truth. I speak the truth.
It's like everything I say just goes right over your head.
Shut up, man. Believe me, that did not go over my head. College football time to make our predictions, time to make our picks. Who's going where in the major BCS title games? A lot still to be determined. We've got some teams with 3 games left to play, other teams like Notre Dame with 2. Oregon now firmly ingrained in the national title picture, as is Kansas State, who now number 1 in the latest BCS rankings, Oregon number 2. If this plays out, as I suspect it will for the remainder of the season, foregone conclusion, those are your 2 in the BCS title game. Is that a game without Alabama in it, who goes out and they lay an egg this week against Texas A&M? Is that a game, Oregon, Kansas State, you think that that's going to draw adequate TV viewers?
Well, first of all, I don't think they even laid an egg. I mean, Texas A&M, Johnny Football, he might be the Heisman frontrunner. I mean, it's probably between him and Colin Klein right now. If you watch that game, he played extremely well. He's the best runner they got. He's the best passer they got. He is a freshman who is definitely going to be invited to New York for the Heisman watch. But go ahead.
Well, side note, it just hit me. Every week we talk about who's the Heisman frontrunner, and what that means is that this year there is nobody really running away with it.
Basically means nothing is what it means.
Yeah.
Because it changes every week.
Exactly. Well, it just means that it's actually going to be interesting when they award the trophy this year. So Oregon, Kansas State. My question to you, not who's going to win, not who's got the better team, but is this a game that America is going to be interested in?
I think so. Obviously people want to see Alabama. I don't. I'm glad they lost. As I said on Twitter many times. A lot of people are going to lobby for Notre Dame just because they're Notre Dame and they think that Notre Dame created football, whatever.
And they did.
But the thing is, Oregon is the most fun team in the nation to watch. So they bring a lot to the game. So the question is not about Oregon, it's about Kansas State. And I don't think Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football from A&M is going to win the Heisman simply because he's a freshman and simply because A&M is not a national title contender. Ergo, Kansas State goes undefeated. I think Colin Klein is going to win that Heisman. So you're going to have the most exciting team of football to watch, and then you're going to have the Heisman Trophy winner in that national title game. Answer is yes. I think it's going to be very intriguing.
Well, we just talked about a couple of quarterbacks for the Heisman Trophy presentation, but again, on the Notre Dame side of things, you got Manti Te'o, who just continues to have an epic, record-breaking defensive season for the Irish. This is a guy that has been mentioned in the Heisman Trophy race. Difficult for him to get out there and actually make a go of winning the trophy because he is a linebacker. But this is a guy, for all intents and purposes, deserves to win that trophy.
I mean, he definitely deserves to go. I think the 4 people who are going to be invited to New York is going to be Colin Klein. It's going to be Johnny Football. It's going to be Kentwan Balmer from the Ducks, who had 5 touchdowns and 300 some yards rushing, most all time against the Trojans a week ago.
Kentwan Balmer?
Kentwan Balmer.
I'll be damned. Didn't he walk off?
What? Walk off? What's that mean?
Kentwan Balmer. No.
Did I just say the wrong name? Basically, the running back from Oregon. I'm pretty sure it's Kentwan Balmer. Maybe I said the wrong name. I apologize if I did say the wrong name, but I'm pretty sure that's it. I know who you're talking about.
Thank you.
I don't think it's that individual.
Okay.
And if I said the name wrong, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And then it's going to be Manti Te'o. It's going to be those 4 individuals. Manti won't win simply because people want to see the best offensive player on one of the best teams in the nation, which is why Colin Klein's a favorite. Manziel's in there because he legitimately deserves it. Not that the other guys don't. The running back from Oregon, now I'm scared to say his name because I might be wrong. I mean, he blew up, and if he continues to do what he's been doing, he's going to be there as well, along with Te'o, who deserves to be there, maybe deserves to win it more than the other guys, but he's not an offensive player, so that's against him.
All right, so where does Alabama wind up now? They're no longer undefeated. As I have it, Alabama's going to the Sugar Bowl where they will face Clemson. That's where I have the Crimson Tide at the moment.
Well, I love watching college football. Watching pro football is fun. It's a lot more fun when the playoffs get here. I love watching college football because every game means so much. So I'm going to go a little bit more in depth. I'm going to go the specific conference title games, who's going to be in it, and then who's going to go to the bowl games. Is that right?
Yeah, man. Well, you go right there, but before we spoil it, I want to end with the Rose Bowl. So don't get to the Rose Bowl until the end.
So I've got Nebraska and Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game, big red rolls. I've got Oregon versus USC in the Pac-12 title game, and I think it's another, 1,000 points, 1,500 yard output with Oregon coming out on top, much like the first game. Alabama versus Georgia in the SEC title game, going to be much closer than the experts think. I stole that from you, Lee Corso. I would not actually be surprised at all if Georgia wins. I have been saying Alabama has not played the South Carolinas. They've not played the Floridas. They haven't had to play the Georgias yet, like all these other teams have been playing each other, beating each other up, and they got exposed by an A&M team. The defense isn't even that good.
And you know what? I'm gonna incline to agree with you for a change to say it is not a foregone conclusion after the way that Alabama has played the last 2 weeks against their first real competition of the season, 1-1. That Georgia team is going to give Alabama really a big run for their money. And like you said, not out of the realm of possibility for Georgia to walk away with that thing.
I absolutely agree with you. My one issue is this. Georgia lost by like 28, 30 points to South Carolina. I mean, that's a pretty bad, devastating loss to a good team. But, I mean, you lose by 30 points. There's holes in your team somewhere.
Different South Carolina team, though, when they played.
Well, you're absolutely
South
right.
Carolina
you're
team.
absolutely right. But because of that, I got to go with Alabama in a narrow, hard-fought game. After all that, I'm sticking with Alabama.
Okay.
All right. In the ACC title game, really ridiculous they're even playing this. Florida State's going to play like a 6-6 Miami team. Florida State's going to win. And then the conferences without title games, Kansas State's going to hold on to the Big 12. Rutgers is going to hold on in the dominant Big East. By the way, Rutgers has lost to probably the eminent MAC champions. Maybe Kent State should get into the Orange Bowl over Rutgers. But those are my conference champs. Now you want to go into the bowl games a little bit?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Obviously, we've already discussed the title game. Let's go to the Fiesta Bowl, where I've got Oklahoma going against LSU. How do you see this one?
I have Oklahoma versus Florida, and I was surprised when we went to ESPN.com, they had LSU in there instead of Florida, which is surprising to me. Maybe they're thinking Florida State's going to beat Florida, which would give Florida 2 losses, which would be the same as LSU. But to me, Florida beat LSU head-to-head. So Florida should get in over LSU. That's not how college football works. Maybe LSU is going to bring more fans or something. I don't know. But I'm going with Florida versus Oklahoma in that Fiesta Bowl. In the Orange Bowl, I have the ACC champs of Florida State absolutely just killing Rutgers, the Big East champs. Why are you in the BCS?
Well, mine's similar, except I actually have Louisville over Rutgers.
They're going to get killed too. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not basketball.
You're really, it's a sacrificial lamb at that point. So we've got the Fiesta, we've got the Sugar, we've got the Orange, and the title game.
No, we haven't talked about Sugar yet, have we?
I did. I had Alabama versus Clemson.
Okay.
I threw that in there. Who are your picks? Then?
I have the same matchup, Alabama versus Clemson. I just didn't think we had talked about it yet. I actually think Clemson will hang with this team a lot better than people think. Clemson cannot play defense, but they have a good offense.
Again, and that goes to what we were talking about. Competition for Alabama. Are they really that good? This is a Clemson team that will pose a significant challenge for the Alabama Crimson Tide.
I completely agree.
Significant challenge. And if Alabama actually wins the SEC championship, not a foregone conclusion that they will, this is no walk in the park. So you could have Clemson pulling the upset, handing Alabama their second loss of the season.
You know what's funny to me? It was maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe not yet, maybe a week ago. Could Alabama beat an NFL football team? It was just a ridiculous scenario to even throw out there. Now we're like, well, are they even the best team in the SEC? It's just ridiculous, folks. No. NFL is just a lot better than college. As much as I love watching college football, I'm not even sure that they'll beat Georgia. I'm not even sure that they'll beat Clemson. They're a really good team, no disrespect. But that was just ridiculous in my opinion.
Well, here's where it gets fun. Save the best for last, and I got all sorts of excited when I saw this being projected by a number of experts over the weekend.
Fourth and Pain?
The Rose Bowl.
We're the experts.
Notre Dame versus Nebraska.
Big Red's going to roll. It's easy. You guys can't score.
Is this...
No athletes, no speed.
Is this Well, first of all, who do you have in the Rose Bowl? Is it the same matchup?
I do.
Okay, here's the thing. You told me earlier in the day.
This is not true. This is all lies. What he's about to say to you.
Somebody slipped a note under my door.
Completely false.
That said Nebraska spots their opponents 14 points.
Well, they do that. They do that.
And so I said to this anonymous note passer, who shall remain anonymous, if you spot Notre Dame 14 points, that's a tight enough defense where you've actually just given up the game out of the chute. You cannot spot the Irish any points because of the defense.
I would agree with you. Our quarterback, he's fast, he's agile, he's athletic. He's actually a very good quarterback, and it's taken him a couple of years to develop to this point. But, I mean, he hands out turnovers like a Santa Claus handing out Christmas presents on Christmas Eve. It's ridiculous. And they haven't watched a game yet where they haven't spotted a team 14 points. But if they don't spot Notre Dame 14 points, how's Notre Dame going to score? How are they even going to be in this game? It's ridiculous. So the fact is they're going to give them a 14-0 lead, and then they're going to beat them 21-14.
Well, here's my question.
If this game happens. If Notre Dame doesn't get routed by Wake Forest.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Notre Dame should have lost to Pittsburgh at home. Pittsburgh loses like misses a 25-yard field goal. I turn on the TV on Thursday Night Football, and Pittsburgh is losing to Connecticut, the basketball team, I think, 24-3, I think in the second quarter. And Notre Dame barely struggled to beat them. What is that?
It was not their best offering. But
barely beat BYU, who I believe is barely over 500.
They play up and they play down. They like to play games tight. It gives Brian Kelly a little extra something to coach his players about, man. It's just a little, hey, don't ever take any team lightly because, well, you might not get the win.
I actually think it'll be a legitimately good game, and I think it'll come down to the wire, if you want my honest opinion, if this game happens.
10-0.
In all seriousness.
It doesn't matter. Okay, but going back to your point, 10-0, that's still 10 wins. They got those wins, no matter how narrow, still undefeated, triple overtime. They get that win. Okay, this is a good Irish team. And, like I said, you spot Notre Dame 14 points. Game's over before kickoff.
It's not over. Notre Dame cannot score.
Doesn't matter. That defense is so good.
They barely beat BC, who's like 2-8 now. The defense is the best defense in the nation. But they can't even decide on who their starting quarterback is.
That's true. That's true.
I'm just saying. I'm glad they're back. I'm glad they're doing well. I think they get unfairly treated. They get to have their cake and eat it too. It's freaking ridiculous. But I'm glad to see some of the old time teams coming around and being good again, a la Florida State, a la Notre Dame. And I legitimately think if this game happens, it will be a close game, probably high teens, low 20s.
All right, question for you though, serious question then against Notre Dame. You just brought up a good point. They can't decide on a starting quarterback. A game of this gravity, a game of this magnitude. Do you go with the experienced senior who's largely been on the bench in Reese this season, or do you go with your rookie quarterback, Golson?
Well, I'm sure you watched the Oklahoma game, right?
Yes.
You go with Golson. After what he did, I mean, that's a big-time game. That's on the road. That was against the top 10, maybe top 5 team at the time. You go with Golson. He showed what he can do in a big-time game atmosphere.
Asked and
Plain and
answered.
simple.
What do you guys think? Tweet us your predictions, your bold predictions, and more importantly, who wins? Nebraska, Notre Dame?
I have a question for you.
At 4th and Payne.
I have a question for you. And I think Nebraska's going to win for one reason, because I think Notre Dame has fallen out of favor with the Almighty. I legitimately think this.
They still have touchdown Jesus, my friend. You cannot fall out of favor when you've got the sun right there smiling
man-made.
down.
It's man-made.
Doesn't
Man
it?
also made golden calves.
Jesus is Jesus.
Jesus didn't appreciate the golden calves.
Jesus is Jesus.
He didn't like the golden calves.
Jesus.
He kicked the golden calves.
Jesus.
But the bottom line is, I'm going to drop some knowledge on you that I guarantee you don't know. Because Notre Dame has not contended for a national title or even close in 20 years. No, not even close.
Charlie Weiss is.
They had 2 losses, and they got beat by Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl. The year Troy Smith won the Heisman and Ted Ginn was drafted number 9 overall. Don't touch my college football knowledge.
All right.
I'm going to go back to 1993. Florida State, Charlie Ward, Heisman Trophy winner. Who did Florida State lose to that year? Only had 1 loss.
Notre Dame.
They lost to Notre Dame in Notre Dame Stadium.
I remember watching that. That game was on NBC.
Absolutely. They end up number 2 rated in the nation, play a number 1 undefeated Nebraska team in the Orange Bowl. Nebraska should have won. That's neither here nor there. So there's 3 teams at the end of the year with 1 loss. Nebraska, Notre Dame, Florida State. Well, by default, Florida State beats Nebraska. Ergo, Nebraska's out, right? That makes sense, right?
Correct.
Okay. Notre Dame beats Florida State, so ergo Florida State's out, right?
Correct.
Incorrect. Jesus does not like Notre Dame. Florida State was the national champs. Notre Dame ended up number 2.
Yeah, well,
I'm just saying. You're
and
falling out of favor with the Almighty.
but that was hold on. You bring up that Florida State squad, and here's a question I've actually always wanted to get a pro player perspective on. Why in the hell did Charlie Ward go into the NBA and not the NFL after winning the Heisman? And I remember watching the draft that year. Nobody was even really interested in this guy.
Well, to be honest with you, that frustrated me for a long time. He is the most fun. Michael Vick and Pat White was a lot of fun to watch at West Virginia, but Charlie Ward in Florida State was probably the most electrifying, still a line from the rock player I've ever seen in college football. And Trev Alberts actually had a great day in the Orange Bowl when they played him and kind of contained him. But I think it's the fact that basketball players can make a lot. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But I think it's the fact that basketball players can make a lot more money. Their contracts are fully guaranteed. So if he gets hurt and never steps foot on that court, he's going to get everything. And it's probably going to be more than an NFL contract. So it's guaranteed and it's more.
But it just makes me wonder. I mean,
maybe he just liked basketball more too. I don't know.
You just hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is a guy with all the talent in the world, and he had shades of Michael Vick. He was ahead of his time. He was really ahead of his time. He would have really innovated the NFL a good decade before, guys like RG3, guys like Michael Vick come along.
He was RG3 before RG3. He was that guy who could run and make people look silly, and then could throw the ball accurately and deep. He was RG3 about 20 years before RG3. He really was. He is probably the best talent I've ever seen not go in the NFL. And I was extremely disappointed because I'm not really a basketball guy. I watch it from time to time. Actually, I'm an expert. We talk about it on the show, so I'm an expert. But, I was a little disappointed. But you look at it from his perspective, maybe he just liked basketball better. You got the guarantee plus more money. Why not?
Well, he didn't exactly have that illustrious NBA career. Winds up with the New York Knicks, does a few things here and there, but it didn't exactly blow anybody's skirt up. So,
well, I agree with you. And you want to know some trivia about him?
By all means.
He used to play highlights of his career at Florida State because he went to the Knicks before the Knicks games, and him and his teammates would sit there and watch it before the game to kind of get pumped up for the game.
Interesting.
So he still, I think he missed it a little bit. Maybe he wishes he would have gone to the NFL. I can't speak for him. I wish he would have.
Well, you know what I miss is the two-sport athlete. I mean, Charlie Ward was exciting. I used to love watching Deion Sanders play for the Braves and the Falcons.
And Bo Jackson.
And Bo Jackson. I mean, it's gone. Those days are gone.
Those guys, I mean, they were just out of this world. Their ability, their athleticism. I mean, those guys are rare to be able to do that. I mean, Deion Sanders could be the fastest person to ever come through the NFL. And Bo Jackson could be the most talented player to ever come through the NFL. He got hurt. But, I mean, if you watch those guys, it was just ridiculous. And to have that ability to do it in two sports, I was a two-sport athlete in high school, and I was worn out, so I can only imagine.
It wasn't just two sports. I mean, it was two sports at their highest level possible.
Absolutely.
And for Deion Sanders, two sports at the highest level possible on the same day.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Incredible.
I forgot about that.
Deion, incredible. But we are fresh out of time, but be sure to follow us at Fourth and Pain. Tweet us. Let us know. Where are the major teams going to fall in the BCS bowl games? We want your opinion. More importantly, Irish, Cornhuskers, Rose Bowl. Who's going to win? On that note, I'm Chuck Carroll. Thank you so very much for believing in our weirdness.
I'm Adam Carriker. I've got some really big arms. Peace out, Fourth and Painters.